Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/JustNoMil. In today's episode, handmade knitted clothes for my baby was a problem for my in-laws. Thought my MIL was a sweet old lady based on previous interactions. Today, she finally blew up, and I've realized that she's the most delusional, irrational person I've ever met. MIL wants 70th birthday party during my only time with my family. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Handmade knitted clothes for my baby was a problem for my in-laws. My grandmother is a wonderful knitter. She taught me to knit when I was 6 years old. So, when I got pregnant, my 87-year-old grandmother and I made a lot of clothes for my baby: sweaters, pants, hats, jackets, and a couple of blankets. My mother-in-law doesn't know how to knit, but MIL always finds failures in our work. Things like "you should have used bigger buttons, there's a little mistake there, but I see it, my FIL complained that handmade wool clothes don't warm enough and get cold inside the fabric. It was absurd. My husband told his father every time, he said it was nonsense, but the FIL insisted. And MIL also in their comments. I always see a mistake. I have had problems with my in-laws because of the baby's clothes that I buy that they don't like. They complain that I repeat clothes for the baby, or they criticize the brand of clothes that we buy. My husband thinks it is nonsense from his parents, and they have stopped his feet. I still use my free time to knit clothes for my daughter and my grandmother too. I'm just trying to carry on the tradition. My grandmother was very, very poor. My grandmother made all the clothes for her daughters since they were born. And I don't want to forget where I come from. The FIL and the MIL continue with their nonsense. I don't understand why they are complaining. Isn't it beautiful when someone makes something unique for you? What's the problem with that? As a fellow knitter, tell your in-laws to mind their own business. And never ever knit so much as a coaster for either of them. How you dress your child is your business, not theirs, so they can either keep their comments to themselves, or not be around you and your child. You have every right to carry on a family tradition you enjoy, and unless your wool garments are giving baby allergic reactions or something, your husband should also be backing you up to his parents that how you both dress your child does not require their commentary, and if he hears it again, they will be asked to leave. I had done a very delicate job of a summer jacket for my MIL a few years ago. She wears it regularly and has shown it to all her friends. I can't understand why it bothers them. My husband tells them that they are talking nonsense and to stop constantly. Wool is cold? Does not compute. As a fellow knitter, they can pound sand. My apologies, my English is not very good. My father-in-law insists that it is cold between knitting for the baby. He is referring to the little hollow domes that remain in the wool fabric. I swear that it is well knitted with good quality wool suitable for babies. Some friends, they have asked me where we got the sweaters because they thought they were cute, and they were surprised to find out that my grandmother and I knitted them. Sounds like jealousy to me that they can't gift baby with anything personalized like that. My late aunt gifted my first daughter with 2 beautiful knitted cardigans. I'll keep them forever. It's this, pure jealousy. Mael used to knit, my mom still does. When Mael saw the jumpers, sweaters, my mom had made, it was, oh, she shouldn't have done that collar, my son never liked them. Guess what, this is my son, not yours. Ah, this is so cute. I have some knitted clothes for my daughter, made by my BFF's mom, and I love them. It's so nice when someone takes the time to make you something. I also still have some handmade clothes from when I was a baby that I'll be using for my daughter. Some I don't even know who made, LOL, but it's such a nice gesture that comes from a place of so much love. Your in-laws are probably jealous they don't have the ability to do it themselves. But most importantly, why are they being allowed to say such things? This is not their place, and I'm not even talking about the knitted clothes, I'm talking about everything. It's not their place to tell you anything about how you dress your child. I would remind them that if they have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. What you are doing is such a beautiful labor of love. Your child is so lucky to have you as a mom. It just sounds like sheer jealousy from the in-laws. They are complaining because they are jealous as jealous can get. Keep all those hand-knitted clothes locked away where the ILs can't put their hands on them. And keep an inventory. They are very likely to steal them, then re-gift them to your baby as their own handiwork. Or they may damage them so you cannot use them. Their son needs to tell them to find some new business of their own to mind, because they are going to be cut off and cut out if they keep sticking their jealous noses in your business. LOL. My MIL is a knitter, as am I. None of her 5 kids or dozenish grandkids have suffered from hypothermia due to knit clothing. At least you know who not to waste your time on knitting for. What you're doing is beautiful. Your husband needs to tell them firmly to shut up about the clothes. They are being rude, and it is none of their business how you dress your baby. He should tell them every time they are rude, they will be out in time out and not be allowed around the baby or you. Consequences for their rudeness is the only way they might learn. My husband tells them that they are not right. In fact, one of his favorite outfits was made by me. He wore it at a family meal, and MIL tried to convince us to change his clothes because he did not like the color, yellow and dark blue. My husband said that our daughter was very pretty and that it was the clothes he likes the most. MIL made a very bad face but had to put up with it. DH needs to tell them that unless they stop this nonsense, they will no longer be welcome in your home or around your child. He needs to be blunt and needs to stand up when he says that. If they are holding LO, take LO back and walk away. These will be cherished family heirlooms, especially the ones your grandmother helped with. Someday, your child can tell their child how you and your grandmother knitted these things for them before they were born. That's special, that can't be store-bought. Thought my MIL was a sweet old lady based on previous interactions. Today, she finally blew up, and I've realized that she's the most delusional, irrational person I've ever met. Hey y'all! I've been posting here quite often since my MIL moved in, and I'm grateful for the sub to let me blow off some steam. Here comes a wall of text, because this is my one way of venting. For a recap, my MIL is 78. She's always been the selfless angel type every time I've seen her prior to moving in. She was always hyper polite, always cooked drawn out amazing meals just for us, and got to spoil my son for our visits. Sure, she's old-fashioned and a little batty in her own quirky way, but was always incredibly courteous and doting. So, long story short, MIL was kicked out of her home where she paid next to no rent her entire life. Her sister, 92 and still kicking, owned it until it recently went up for sale due to having multiple strokes and no longer being capable of managing it. MIL is broke. She only gets minimal social security every month. She's relied on her son, my husband, our entire marriage to solve her problems, financial or otherwise. He has taken care of her siblings as well out of love and not because he's obligated. It's been a roller coaster of dementia homes, stories, funeral costs, and nursing homes for as long as we've been married. We didn't want her to go searching for Section 8 housing on such short notice, nor could we afford to get her own place. She also lived about a 2-hour drive from hell away. Our solution seemed simple. We went out of our way to rent a new home with an extra bedroom for her and one for her sister for when we may be able to employ a part-time home nurse. She swore she would help out with her meals in between and I would take care of diapers when the nurse was off the clock. We thought, hey, it'll be a bit of a learning curve, but she's so sweet, there's no way we won't find a groove and get a little extra help with the kids. I was 32 weeks pregnant when she moved in. It seemed like a no-brainer to get grandma to enjoy the birth of her second grandson and save us a fortune on elder care at the same time. We thought she would be happy to be with her son and his kids in a nice neighborhood. I detailed it in my first post here, but long story short, MIL shocked me with her inability to adapt. First thing I noticed was that she had debilitating cataracts to the point where she's basically blind. She holds up a magnifying glass inches away from literally everything to see. On top of that, she's also basically deaf. We are taking care of these things, but it's taking time. But it went beyond that. She has no hobbies. I caught her staring at the TV on the "Are you still watching" page as if there was a show on. She must feel like she's staring at a wall all the time every day. She has no interest in doing anything else except for chores. But she will only do these chores her way and becomes extremely offended if I try to show her how we like to do things / ask her nicely to let me put my own laundry away. I showed her how I like to fold my clothes and she smiled and pretended to listen, then literally immediately continued folding them the way I asked her not to. Multiple times, to the point where telling her again would be too awkward. I literally picked them up and refold everything she did one after another right in front of her, and she just continued. She's also so blind that she was putting my bras in the pile with my son's shirts. And when I asked her to let me sort, since she mixed everything up so badly, she ignored me again. Lastly, she undermines our parenting a lot. I've always been a believer that grandma gets to spoil the kids a bit more than parents, but my son, 8, is on the spectrum, and he is the type who has only made many of the strides he has due to our strictness in making him care for himself when capable. He's smart but can be lazy when things are done for him. He can't be babied or he regresses. Everything he knows how to do he had to be pushed into doing for himself, but he always learns to love the independence once he masters these life skills. I caught Mil literally spoon-feeding him within the first week. She was wiping his butt and now he leaves streaks in his underwear, waiting for somebody to wipe him. She dresses him. She brushes his teeth. These are all things we have worked tirelessly in getting him to do for himself. And when I politely remind her that this is not good for him and to let him be independent, I can tell that she gets mad. All this time, Mil has proven herself to be the type to smile to my face and then slowly boil over her grievances. She will smile at me and then blow up on so like he's her scapegoat. Lately, that simmering resentment has finally boiled over, and that's kind of the point of this post. Here are some things, not limited to, that have slowly accumulated and eventually set my Mil off. The other day, she cooked sausage links. She forgot to put the raw ones away in a Ziploc bag, so, overnight, they went bad and turned rock solid, having been exposed to the open air. I saw them in the fridge and said, "Oh, please remember to put them in a bag." It's okay though, it's just a couple pieces of sausage. It was a non-thing. Within moments, she teared up and ran to her room to cry. I followed her to reassure her that mistakes happen, that she can't beat herself up over nothing. Nobody doesn't make mistakes. She insisted that no, this was a huge deal. She was sucking her teeth excessively a week ago. So loud that it sounded like she was eating a bag of chips with her mouth open. So said, "Hey ma, don't forget your tick." She ran to her room to cry and said that she felt like she lived in a big dark hole. It was very sad to hear her say that. I felt bad, but this was something we talked to her about before with no issue. Suddenly it's a huge problem. I personally have a thing where certain excessive mouth noises just obliterate my mood. I can't help it, it's genetic as far as I can tell, but I still do my best to tolerate the occasional teeth sucking. But this? It's non-stop and loud. Unlike anything I've heard before. Louder than smacking gum by a lot. The day we got home from the hospital after a traumatic preterm birth, the first thing she did was complain that it had been a week since she wanted to get her eyebrows waxed. We had to stay in the hospital that entire week, and I guess she took that personally. Never mind the excessive pain I was in coming home for due to complications. I asked her nicely multiple times to try and limit the amount of candies and cookies she put in the pantry while I acclimated to my PP diet. She can still have them, but I asked her to store them in her room for now, because my success in dieting is directly correlated to how many temptations I have at home, and she will usually only eat a single cookie out of a box a day, so they last forever. She has instead taken it upon herself to build a small stash of candy bars and cakes in the pantry, of which she has eaten none. She then offers me food she knows I can't have and then gets upset with me for denying them, as that's impolite. She would douse herself in perfume multiple times a day. perfume makes me physically ill to the point where I had to go lay down with nausea and headaches whenever she did. Some helpful Redditors pointed out that it would be toxic for my baby, so we asked her nicely to tone it down for the sake of the newborn's health. She freaked out and said that she had no control over her life. I felt bad about this one, as I know she enjoys her perfume a lot, but it was just too much. Her room still smells like a thick musk and I just don't go in there. Now, this is the big blow up. Today, a repairman came to fix a piece of furniture. Mil asked me if she should take the dog outside so he didn't bother him, and I told her no, the dog will calm down after a moment of excitement, but she was free to go outside anyway if she wanted to. I thought she went out to enjoy herself. She does it often and says she likes the sun. Well, the repairman left while I was pumping breast milk and Hubs was feeding our new 2-week-old. She eventually came in about 5 minutes after he left and blew up. She was crying, yelling us that it was so rude to not come and get her immediately. We told her that we thought she was out there in her own accord, but she didn't listen. So kept saying it was only 5 minutes, we have had our hands full and we didn't know, and she stormed out of the house for 2 hours. I was supposed to go to sleep, newborn schedule, but stayed up because DH went out to chase her and talk. During this talk, since I was not around, she let it all out. Said she lives in hell. She's mad at me for pointing out how the sausage went bad. Says I should have never mentioned it, let her leave it out as much as she wanted, and that it was rude of me to correct her. She used the phrase, "I know you have kids with her, so she's not going anywhere," and my husband defended me, asking her WTF I had done that was so wrong and if I should have eaten bad meat just to please her. He told her that, if she couldn't live with us, she wouldn't make it with anyone else who didn't bend over backwards, which she denied. Apparently she expected us to let her do literally anything she wanted and says that she walks on eggshells around me because I ask her not to baby my son. I'm watching all of my hard work crumble before my eyes with how she treats him, and I will not stand by and watch my son wither away into a helpless blob. She said that it wasn't fair that the dog had rules and the cats don't, going so far as to pantomime a hunched-over servant, to which So had to explain that cats are incapable of learning manners the way dogs are in the doges and allowed to just jump on people and beg for food. She thinks him having a crate is cruel and unusual. She even said that it makes her upset when I don't jump out of my seat and shout an enthusiastic good morning when she wakes up. Forget that I'd been up since the wee hours taking care of a newborn. Forget all of my pains and aches, my disfigured and bloody nipples from trying to find the right pump, and my also being on a strict diet. Oh, and forget that I'm in my own home where I shouldn't feel like I have to feign enthusiasm every time I see a family member. It's not like I'm rude. I always smile and put on a chipper tone no matter how I feel. But, on the days where my pains are just too much, when I'm dizzy or dealing with a migraine, she takes personal offense to my smile not sparkling in the sun. How dare I be somewhat stoic but still polite? I went to sleep after she got back. We talked about it at length until then, and, when I woke up to pump, she was gone. Apparently she went to bed early in a huff. On Saturdays, my son looks forward to a sleepover in her room. He looks forward to it all week. He was just getting ready for bed and my husband was explaining to him that it probably wasn't happening tonight. He ended up opening her door loudly and we had to pull him away and reprimand him for opening her door without knocking, knowing that she was asleep. Well, after he did that twice, I went over to him to console him and tell him that we would make up for it. She burst out of her room and started yelling at us, "Why won't you let him have his sleepover?" We told her that we thought she was sleeping. As per what she said, she apparently even said goodnight to my son when she went to bed, and that regardless, he shouldn't be bursting into her room without knowing that she was awake and willing to have this sleepover. She just kept yelling, not listening, "Why are you not letting him stay with me? It's Saturday. He always sleeps in here." And ultimately, he got to go have his sleepover after we were completely undermined for trying to teach him manners. I'm glad that he got to. He didn't deserve to be shafted, but how dare she make us the bad guys for not letting him force his way inside when we thought she had specifically wanted to be alone. I was already annoyed with her for going to bed without him on his special day, but instead she made a whole show about how we were keeping him from her and how she was the big savior in the end. After all this, DH is fuming. I've never seen him this mad at his mother. He loves her tremendously. He's bent under backwards for her multiple times over the course of our marriage. He's taken care of everything in her life. But now that she's pointing fingers at him and treating him like he's the bad guy, he is over it. He said to me that, if she has unfair outbursts like that, he's gonna tell her to call around and find somebody willing to house her, because she's out of here. She's destroying our newborn period. We won't get these days back. But what gets me is that I think that's what she expects from him. She expects him to just dish out $2,000 per month of his own money, of his children's money, to get her own apartment where she can wander around like Mr. Magoo and eat rancid sausages to her heart's content. It's almost a power play. The initial plan was to move her sister in, save a fortune on elder care, and she would help keep her sister company since I'm not bilingual and they were spending every day together before she moved in with us. But she just stopped talking to her sister altogether? It's so bizarre. It's like she randomly decided to drop her from her life when she moved in with us, and it's clear that her sister is hurt by this. When we ask her, she just goes, "Oh, I don't know," smiley face, or just makes a dismissive mmm. But she won't talk about anything. She won't listen to our side of anything. She just wants to explode, and then pretend it never happened in a cycle. She expects us to just grit our teeth and live in hell with her when our lives are supposed to be happy right now with the new baby. She thinks that burying problems and periodically freaking out is the right way to live and everything else is rude. I can't even enjoy my newborn. I have angry MIL sitting beside me, staring depressedly at the wall for hours on end every day. I can't so much as be a parent to my oldest anymore without incurring her silent ire, which she unloads on DH when they're alone. If I try to talk about it with her, it's all "don't worry about it, everything's fine," smiley face. What gets me, what I take personally, since I'm thinking that the rest may be dementia or something, is how she treats our family finances like a bottomless bank. She thinks that DH is Scrooge McDuck with a pool of gold, despite me telling her about our struggles and how DH has literally been crying over the whole situation with her sister. She knows that our financial plan was to save money on her living costs and on her sister's elder care because we can't afford to take care of everybody, but DH loves her too much to just stick her into Section 8, which takes time, too. But she wants us to buy her own apartment anyway, as well as forgo the plan on saving 5 figures a month on her sister, all while treating us like trash for not allowing her to bulldoze the household. Who is this woman and what has she done with the mill I knew? If we don't get to live out our plan as intended, I will hold this against her forever, and there will be no reconciliation. DH understands. He thinks I've been more than understanding and that it's MIL who is acting like a dictator while claiming to be the victim. Cognitive thresholds? Sitting at a blank television for a while, is there she's there. Yes, but the state only considers them important if they interfere with daily tasks such as cooking, bathing, etc. They'll tell me that they'd yaff if she stares at a wall. Regardless, I'm going to try just in case. The way you describe her, I have my doubts that you will find a relative willing to house her. You need to get her out of your home if the effect on your son is that detrimental. Yes, definitely. The next step is figuring out how. You really need to get her PCP on board. Explain about the character change from sweet and doting to a spawn of Hades. Maybe even print out you posts for him to read. I am so sorry you are having to deal with this. It truly is imperative to get her out of the house. Also, I would throw her snacks and her perfume away. She is being passive-aggressive. The MIL you knew was the MIL who was getting her own way. Now that she is expected to change some of the things she does, the real MIL bubbles to the surface. This is going to get worse, not better, especially if cognitive decline is in play too. Sort out alternative housing sooner rather than later for you all as individuals, especially the little ones and your marriage. There's nothing that angers me more than elderly relatives who haven't planned for their retirements. It's selfish and burdensome to their grown kids who are trying to have lives of their own. Of course, shit happens and nest eggs can disappear, but that doesn't sound like the case here. As others have said, there's only so much you can do before needing the state to step in and care for her. I'm not heartless, but it's entirely unfair to you and your family to shoulder the responsibility in perpetuity. MIL wants 70th birthday party during my only time with my family. For context, we have been married 11 years and have 2 young boys. MIL became mildly no as soon as my first was born. She completely disregarded my wishes on certain things postpartum, was aggressively overbearing when he was a newborn and totally eroded my confidence as a new mother, and constantly dishes out unsolicited advice and critiques my parenting, home, cooking, lifestyle choices, I'm a Som, and just generally stresses me out and causes friction in our marriage. Needless to say, I don't enjoy her very much and don't feel she respects me as a mother or a human being. On to the point of the post, her 70th birthday is coming up in January, and she wants to celebrate it next summer instead. BC, the weather will be nice. I don't live in my home country, I'm American and my husband is Irish, but we live in the UK. I go home once a year for the summer, usually 5 weeks, while the kids are out of school. I often struggle to squeeze everything into those few weeks because I miss my home, family, and friends so much all year. It is essential for me to have this time at home to get me through the rest of the year being in the UK. We spend far more time with my in-laws than we do my own family because they live closer. I sacrificed 10 days of my summer family time last summer for my FIL's 70th birthday, and I just don't want to shorten my trip again next summer for someone I don't feel treats me very nicely. I have asked my husband if we can suggest celebrating her birthday at any other point during the year: February half-term, Easter break, May half-term, or bank holiday long weekend. I'm happy to attend during one of these options, I'm just not prepared to sacrifice time with my family again. My husband is hurt and angry that I am being rigid and uncompromising with my summer plans and that I should honor her wishes to celebrate her birthday when she wants to and just go home a week later. From my side, I feel that if we suggest another date to maintain my much-needed family time and she says no, then she isn't honoring my needs and what's important to me for my well-being, which she has already established as a pattern in her treatment of me over the years. Can anyone weigh in on this with helpful advice? How should we handle this? Edit: I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of your life to respond to my post. I am really grateful for the advice and support. As I'd hoped, my husband has seen the light and apologized to me and explained he's on my side and wants to support my needs and my trip home. He will suggest the idea of a different date for her party, and if she won't compromise, I will be flying home with my kids anyway with my husband's support, and he will go to the party alone. As it happens, the in-laws arrive next week for a visit from Ireland. The party discussion will happen then. If there's anything juicy to report back, I will give a further update if people are interested. Heads she wins, tails you lose. A shame your husband isn't supporting you. She can be rigid, but you can't? Exactly, I said this to him. Why should I bend my needs if she won't bend hers? He told me it's not about me. Go home, visit. He is completely wrong. If they know your yearly plans and continue to infringe on that, disregarding you, your family, and your feelings, then they don't deserve the consideration from you. I'd say go to counseling, but that's personal. Your husband is aware you spend more time with his family. Tell him if you delay your summer trip, then you will be going home for 2 weeks for the holidays. Thank you, I really needed to hear this perspective from someone else. We are currently on a break from couples therapy while we do individual therapy work. I am actually doing EMDR to reprocess how badly she treated me when both my kids were born. So what happens in January when the actual birthday happens? Nothing? She's getting 2 celebrations and you can't miss one? So we could celebrate her birthday over Christmas holidays, as we usually have to drag ourselves and kids to their house for 2 weeks. This year, however, they are choosing to spend Christmas with my BIL and his wife's family, so we won't be seeing them. So, what he's really saying is, your family is basically in exile if his family wants something. I'm struggling to know how you are honestly thinking about letting him sacrifice you like this 2 years in a row. I can see this affecting you in a very big way. I pray you go ahead and go to your family. He's a selfish POS. Unbelievable. I'm blown away how his comfort has been so selfishly displayed as a priority. What a effing sack of SHT. Go home to your family. Hubby can go see mommy, dearest. She doesn't respect you. This is only a power move. You are away from your family for every major holiday. Emil's birthday is in January and she is trying to disrupt your few weeks vacation in the summer? Your husband really needs to rethink this. It's very unfair to you. I hope that you go for at least the 5 weeks, maybe more, and she can either plan a different time of have the party without you. I hope you make it back to the US for some holidays too. Her birthday is in January. She's a grown-up. No one cares about grown-up birthdays this much other than people who are totally into themselves, like your Mill. Don't cut your trip for her. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.